July 2nd, 1951, St. Petersburg, Florida. A landlady, Pansy Carpenter, goes to deliver a telegram to her tenant, 67-year-old Mary Reeser. She touches the doorknob. It is dangerously hot. Alarmed, she gets help. Police break down the door. The room is fine, the walls are fine, the furniture is fine, but the air is thick with an oily, acrid soot. Then they see it. In the corner, a pile of oily black ashes. All that remains of Mary Reeser is her skull, which was shrunken to the size of a teacup, a piece of her spine, and her left foot, completely untouched, still wearing its satin slipper. This was not a normal fire. The investigators were baffled. They called it spontaneous human combustion. Tonight, we unseal the file on the impossible fire that burns from within. The Mary Reeser case is the most famous, but it is not unique. For over 300 years, the file on SHC has grown, and the pattern is always the same. The first rule of the pattern: the destruction is localized. The fire is intense, but it's almost only the victim's torso. The second rule: the room is untouched. This is the real enigma. The heat required to destroy a human body should have incinerated the entire apartment. But in the Reeser case, a stack of newspapers right next to her chair was unburnt. The doorknob was hot, but the room was not. The third rule: the source is missing. There is almost never a clear external source of ignition. No fireplace, no faulty wiring. The fire does not come from the room. The fire seems to come from the person. The file is filled with cases just as bizarre. Case file: Dr. John Irving Bentley, 1966, a 92-year-old physician, a meter reader, entered his home to a strange blue smoke. He found Dr. Bentley in his bathroom, or what was left, a pile of ashes, a hole burnt through the hardwood floor, and, just like Mary Reeser, his lower leg and his foot were untouched. Case file: George Mott, 1986, a 58-year-old former firefighter. His son found him as a pile of ashes and bone fragments on his bed. Again, the riddle. The bed under the ashes was barely singed, but the plastic television set across the room had melted from an intense, localized beam of heat. What kind of fire burns only the body, but is hot enough to melt a TV 10 feet away? For decades, the supernatural explanation was the only one: a curse, a divine punishment. But in the 1970s, forensics finally offered a rational, scientific, and deeply disturbing explanation. It is called the Wick Effect. Think of a candle. A candle is a piece of cloth, the wick, surrounded by a hard block of wax, the fuel. The wick won't burn on its own. The wax won't burn on its own. But light the wick, and it melts the wax, which feeds the flame, allowing it to burn slowly for hours. Now, apply this to a human body. The victim's clothing, like Mary Reeser's cotton housecoat, is the wick. The victim's body fat, the subcutaneous fat under the skin, is the fuel. The theory is that the victim, often elderly or immobile, falls asleep and drops a lit cigarette or a match onto their clothes. The clothes begin to smolder. Slowly, the smoldering wick heats the body fat, which melts and soaks into the clothes, turning the entire body into a slow-burning human candle. This is the Wick Effect. It's a slow, low-temperature fire that can burn for hours, leaving the room and the furniture intact. The Wick Effect is a brilliant and terrifying theory. It almost solves the case, but it leaves critical questions unanswered. Question 1. The heat. The Wick Effect is a low-temperature fire. It explains why the room doesn't burn, but it does not explain the evidence. To reduce a human skull to the size of a teacup requires intense heat, thousands of degrees. The two contradict. It does not explain George Mott's melted television. Question 2. The spark. The Wick Effect requires an external spark, a dropped cigarette, but in many cases, including Dr. Bentley, no source was found. This leads to the true spontaneous theories. Is it ball lightning, a rare electrical phenomenon? Is it a massive internal buildup of static electricity? Or is it, as some researchers suggest, a new, unknown biological or chemical reaction deep inside the body? A methane explosion from the gut, a mitochondrial meltdown? The Wick Effect explains what, but it does not explain why. It does not explain the impossible heat or the missing spark. The file on spontaneous human combustion remains a forensic nightmare, a terrifying and personal mystery that remains unsealed. We post new investigations every single day. Subscribe to Dark Files Unsealed. The Dark Files are waiting.